When we go live, I'm gonna hang up, right?
Yes, sir. Already.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. We are so grateful and we are so thankful that the Lord God Himself has given us this opportunity to have a wonderful conversation this evening. And I want to say to each of you how thankful I am that you were praying for and with me these last couple of weeks. The Lord's been gracious, He's been kind, and I'm back. And I'm grateful to be back on tonight. And tonight we're going to have a conversation around something that's so important for all of us to make certain that in this season of our lives, we don't allow distractions and everything else to pull us away from completing this one assignment in this season of our lives, as we're going to be the change that we want to see. And that is, we want to vote. 4 years ago, I was introduced as a parent of a young lady who went to Spelman. And I thank God she's come out now and she's doing wonderful things, as all of my young ladies are. But I had an opportunity to attend a couple of concerts. And there's one song in particular that I want to share a line or two and the refrain of tonight, so that it speaks to what it is I want for us to hear and pull away from this conversation we're going to have tonight. Some of the lyrics are like this: why put off for tomorrow what I can do today? Why wait for another when I can pave the way? And the refrain says, it's my choice, and I choose to change the world. It's my voice, and I speak with pride and courage. I'll be the change I want to see. I'll scream out loud and say, it's my choice, and I choose to change the world. Ladies and gentlemen, those of you who are connecting with us live tonight, I want you to hear me say tonight, yes, it is our choice. And we want to be that individual. We want to be those persons who will make a huge difference in the world. And so tonight, it's my pleasure to have joining me on tonight, three young ladies that I'm grateful to be connected with. Ms. Cherise Hollis, who is the president of the Henry County Democratic Women. And I'm going to have her to greet you on tonight. And she's going to say whatever she wants to say about herself before we dive into our conversation. So Ms. Cherise, thank you for joining us tonight.
Good evening, everyone. And Bishop, thank you again for this opportunity. As he stated, I am Cherise Hollis, president of the Henry County Democratic Women, where we strive to encourage everyone to get out and vote, especially during this upcoming election. We encourage women to run for office. We educate women on the issues, the current issues that are going on in our county, in our state, in our nation today as well. And we also support women who step up and put their names in the hat to run for office. So the Henry County Democratic Women, we've been doing some amazing things here. Even in the midst of a pandemic, with hosting virtual forums and doing everything that we can to get as much exposure for our candidates that are running for office. So we would love to have you join us for volunteer opportunities, which I can share that information at a later time during this event. But HenryCountyDemocraticWomen.org, we would love to have your support. Thank you, Pastor.
All right. So you'll make sure that we get the information concerning how people can connect and join.
That is correct.
Thank you so much, and I'm so excited to have you on tonight. We're also excited to have the young lady who has known me and my family for quite some time. And as a matter of fact, she and my dad were connected. And when my dad transitioned, she said, hey, you got some work to do. And I was like, nah. And so time has caught me now. And I'm grateful to God. Mrs. Carlotta Harrell, who is the state president of the Georgia Federation of Democratic Women, and she is running for the Henry County Commissioner Chair seat. And so Mrs. Harrell, greet the people and share with them whatever you want them to know about you before we dive into the conversation. Just know I'm excited to have you join me as well tonight.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Bishop. And I appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak to everyone tonight, especially about this important issue on voting. I am the state president of Georgia Federation of Democratic Women. The Henry County chapter actually falls up under my leadership, and we have chapters throughout the entire state. And so I oversee those chapters. And I am also running for Henry County Commission chairwoman. And, you know, it is time for us to look at moving Henry County forward. It is time for us to have some bold leadership that can take Henry County to the next level. It is time for us to be able to work collaboratively with our cities. And it is just time to deal with an array of issues that we have here locally in our county. And I am that person that is ready to take and lead this county to that next level. Thank you.
All right, Mrs. Harrell, thank you so much. And we're super fortunate to have you connect with us tonight. And then tonight we also have Mrs. Mildred Schmelz. Forgive me if I kind of said that last name differently, but she is the Democratic appointee to the Henry County Board of Elections. And I wanted to have her with us tonight. She's going to answer questions tonight. So Mrs. Mildred, if you don't mind me just calling you that so that I don't keep messing up your last name. So Mrs. Mildred, it is my pleasure to have you with us tonight. So would you greet the people and share with them whatever you like tonight?
It's a pleasure to be here, Bishop Strickland. As Bishop said, my name is Mildred Schmelz. I am the Democratic appointee to the Henry County Board of Elections. I have served in that capacity since 2015. I am a current member, but I'm also a past chair of the Henry County Board of Elections. And as Mrs. Harrell has said, this is a very important time for voting and getting people out to vote. And we're going to see some change in Henry County. And this is a great opportunity that we have. And I am so happy to be a part of everything that's going on right now.
All right, thank you so much. And I do agree with all three of you. It is time for change. That's why we titled this conversation tonight, Be the Change. And oftentimes we run into individuals who will have a lot to say about things after this process has gone forth and they did not participate. And so tonight we want to encourage people. We want to encourage all of our listeners, and for those who are going to watch it again, those who are going to start watch parties later, we want all the millions of persons who are going to watch this tonight to be the change. Let your voice be heard. And so tonight, as we begin our conversation, ladies, talk to us about why do we need people to get out and vote? Why do we push this vote? Why is that important for us? So either one of you can start and we'll just converse and then we'll keep it moving. So why do we need to get people out and vote?
Bishop, I can start off with you know what I believe, and you have it on different levels. On the national level, currently, right now, the reason why it's important that we get out to vote is because our democracy is at risk. The leadership that we currently have is idiotic, and you know, we've got to get out and vote because our democracy is at risk. We need some leadership. You know, we need some decency, moral compass. All of that is at stake. And then on top of that, we have the opportunity to to maintain control on the national level. We have the opportunity to maintain control of the House of Representatives, but we also have the opportunity to take control of the Senate. We need 3 seats to do that. And we have the opportunity right here in Georgia to flip 2 of those seats. You know, we have John Ossoff that is running for the U.S. Senate, and you know, there's another seat also that is available. That we have several candidates that are in that's running in that particular seat. But we have the opportunity to, you know, turn both of those seats Democratic, so that we can flip the Senate and we can flip the House. I mean, we can maintain the House that we currently have, and bring some decency back to the White House, because currently right now we do not have decency at all in the White House. And so we have a lot at stake. We have just systematic issues at stake when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to climate change, when it comes to immigration, racial equality, economic equality, all of that is at stake. And so that's why this election is important on the national level. Now let's talk about on the local level. On the local level, specifically here in Georgia, and specifically here in Henry County, we have the opportunity here in Georgia to take 16 House seats to take control of the House of Representatives on the state level. And so, you know, with that being said, even on the county level, we have some countywide seats. And as you said earlier, and as I state, I am running for Henry County Commission Chair, but we have the chair seat that's up, we have the sheriff seats that is up, and we have the clerk of Superior Court seat that is up. And those are 3 countywide seats that is up, that we need bold leadership to come in and take this county and move it forward. And so that's why this election is important, because we have a lot of things at risk on the table when it comes to, on the local level, issues that we're dealing with you know, the different issues that we've had with the community and policing. You know, you need someone that is going to come in and make sure that, you know, you're able to make sure that the police and the community, you know, are able to work together and, you know, become unified, and you bring in community policing programs and implement those. You know, we've had incidents right here in Henry County that, you know, the current leadership had the opportunity to make changes and bring in community policing programs. And now that it's election year, now we want to talk about it. But this stuff should have happened when this incident occurred, not trying to make change now. So leadership matters. Leadership matters on the local level. Leadership matters on the state level. Leadership matters on the national level. And so that's why this election is very important and vital, that everyone get out and vote, because, you know, I mean, it impacts, you know, each and every one of us on every issue imaginable across the board.
Got it.
Bishop, let me weigh in also.
Yes,
Let
ma'am.
me first of all deal with the misconception. A lot of people feel that their vote doesn't count. Your vote does count. I had a young man here in Henry County tell me a few years ago that senior citizens' votes didn't count because they only made up 10% of the population here in Henry County. But let me tell you, I know of a board of commissioner who is no longer on the board of commissioner who lost by 1 vote. So I just want to emphasize the importance of voting and the misconception that your vote doesn't count. Your vote does count. It does count. And I encourage people to vote, vote, vote.
Thank you, ma'am. And I want to press this, Ms. Sharice, you can jump right in if you want to on this one, that Ms. Carlotta, you mentioned on the local and the national level. And I don't want us to take this election lightly at all. There is a need for the voices of the people to be heard in this November election on the national level. And we did talk about, we're not going into the first debate that we heard on last evening, but we all saw, and we all are aware that nationally there is a need for our voices to be heard so that we can be the change that we need nationally. Locally, I heard you talk about the Sheriff's Department, and I'll say it. We do have a candidate, Reginald Scandrett, who's running for that position, and he's doing some wonderful things, and I heard his agenda, and I cannot tell anybody who to vote for. However, I've heard his agenda, and I'm walking right alongside with him in this process. So it is important, people, that we make certain. And Ms. Mildred, thank you so much for bringing that up in reference to people saying that their votes don't count, and that's this population of people that voices are that don't matter. All of our voices matter, and so all of us need to not fall for the misconception or the distracted phrase that says it doesn't matter. It does matter. And it does count. Miss Sharice, you want to weigh in on that, or?
Well, yes, sir. I wanted to chime in reference to bringing the fact that we want to make sure that the youth understand that their vote matters as well. And I say that to say, because we just had a forum or a panel last week talking about, how to get the youth involved and how to get them engaged. And some of the things that they said, that they wanted more partnership, collaboration, and leadership opportunities. And, for us to train them and pave the way. So we want to make sure that we're doing those things so that we can make sure that we keep the youth involved and to let them know that their vote matters as well. Because everything, as Carlotta stated, and even what Ms. Mildred stated, you can win or lose an election by one vote. And so and everything that we do, all politics is local. Every decision that's made, each person that's in office is making a decision for our day-to-day lives. And so we definitely want to make sure that we participate in the process, because if not, then you only have a few making choices for the many. Mm-hmm. So like you said, be the change that we want to see. That change is showing up either during early voting, absentee process, or on election day and casting your vote.
Thank you so much. I want to say also that in light of all of this, and you brought in the young people. And so the moment my girls, and I have 3 daughters, the moment they became age enough, the moment, the first thing I instilled in them was to vote. And they all had this perspective, well, why is it so important? Which was a shared perspective, because if you didn't live in the generation where that you were actually physically involved in that, then your perspective is a little bit different because you didn't live in that. And so they're like, well, why? That they hear all these things about voting and how it's this and how it's that. And so they haven't actually lived that. But when you've lived through that, that's why it's so important. Oh, let me say this to everybody who's listening, that those of us who are in our seasoned years, it is so important to share with those of us that are coming along the why it is important to vote, the lives that were taken, the brutality that was given or put upon our people for the sake of us just being able to be heard. So we cannot shut down and not share with this generation that's coming the importance. Because here it is, if we don't raise a generation who is not aware of the history and the reasons why it's so important, then we'll raise up one who will never have a voice in the change. So it's so important. People who are connected on us on this conversation, for you to know for sure whether they want to hear it or not. So when I grew up, and I hope every parent who's young hears this, some things were not a choice. And everybody on this Zoom call tonight knows exactly what I'm talking. Some things were not a choice. When mama and daddy said it and grandmama said it, oh, you did it. I remember a couple of weeks ago, we were with Shaquille O'Neal, and I love how he talks about some things he just does because my mama said it. My mama said it, and if my mama said it, I'm going to do it. That's what I call honoring and respecting your parents. See, we're raising a generation now of children who won't obey. There were some things because my mama said it, because my daddy said it. One of my girls asked me a question the other day about, well, why do we vote Democratic? Because mama said it when we were growing up. Then when we got older, of course, we did our history. But when we grew up, there were certain things we did because mama and daddy said it. And I want to urge every parent, every young person who is of age to vote, listen, make it your business, people, parents, to tell make them vote. We don't want to use it where the lines, get in line. Somebody stood in the line that got beat for the line to be have you in it. Let me come back. Let me come back to the dialogue and the conversation. Let me
throw a little humor in there for you.
Come on, throw it in that end.
I have an 18-and-a-half-year-old grandson, and he called me up. He calls me G Mommy, and he called me up. He says, G Mommy, I'm officially an adult now. And I said, well, what do you mean you're officially an adult now? He says, well, I went and I registered to vote, and I went and got my driver's license. That makes me officially an adult. He said, aren't you proud of me? I said, I sure am.
And tell him that we're very proud of him as well. Yeah, very good, very good. So let's talk about this idea. We talked about, this election is so important on so many levels, and I want to circle back to Mrs. Carlotta's comment about having people in position who will speak up and speak out. One of the things that I've been praying for this morning, I woke up with a strong urge in reference to people of God being in positions where change can take place, where the Bible declares we're salt and the light. And I've been praying for there to be persons that we can put in positions who are, number one, hear and obey God. That's what I've been praying for, people who can hear and obey God and will have no, will make no mistake about it, that they are. We have a superintendent in the Atlanta public school system, makes no mistake about it, that she is a child of God and will tell you that. And so those are the persons we've been praying that God will put in place. And so it's so important that we go vote. And I heard Ms. Mildred mention earlier that one of our commissioners, I believe you said, lost by one vote. Ladies and gentlemen, numbers do matter. Numbers do matter. I think it was Olita Adams who says you can get there by trailway, railway, boatway. I don't care how you get to the polls and vote, just get there. And so we do understand that there are a lot of things that have shifted in the voting process this year. And so I'm going to ask us to explain to us now the process of voting, the machines, what they're going to look like, what should people expect if they're going to be in person to vote, and then if they're going to do early ballot voting, what does that look like? So either one of you can jump in on either part of the question.
Well, as you know, we have new machines. Give us a paper ballot, which is kept at the election. So a person can actually go back in a year from now and check to see how they voted. These are all new machines.
So say that again. We have a paper ballot this year, and they're kept, and people can go back and see how they voted.
Absolutely. If they have any concern about their voting, they can go back and actually go back and check a year from now. And the elections office should be able to go back, pull those paper ballots, and show the person how they voted.
Okay.
Because
so
I think there's a big concern right now about the whole voting process. People are very concerned about whether their vote's being counted.
Mhm. Is there a way that people, because I remember going through the process, and we actually had an educational day at our church where they actually brought a machine down, and we were actually able to walk through the process. So when I get to the voting place on November 2nd, if I'm going to do it in person, walk me through, Miss Mildred, what am I to expect? What should I bring? And then tell me how can I make sure that I'm on the list and going to the right place?
Well, first of all, you can go online to see where your voting precinct is.
Okay.
You can go to my voter page in the Secretary of State's website and check. You should have got a precinct card in the mail that shows where you're supposed to vote. There have been some changes in voting locations. As you know, we're no longer in the schools, we're in churches, and we're in government facilities currently. So mostly the recreation centers and some of the libraries here in Henry County. But a person can go in and see where they need to go in terms of their polling places. They can go online. They can go to my voter page and check to see where they need to vote. And once you get to your polling place, the only thing you need is a state ID. Most people have a driver's license that they take in to show. And you get there and you present your driver's license, and they will look to see if in fact you're in the right place, and verify it and give you a voter card to use. You put it into the new machines and it shows your ballot, the individuals or the referendums that you're to vote on, and you actually vote from the machines, which will then you take your card back, and then they take the information and feed it into a scanner that will scan your actual vote. And you can stand there and watch it. But I encourage organizations, churches, schools to invite election staff out to show the whole voting process. They will actually bring a machine out and take you through the whole voting process with the new machines.
And you're so right. We had that done right when the new voting process started for us. I believe Miss Carlotta, I know you were there, but Miss Sharice, I'm not quite sure if you were there that day.
Yes, that event was actually hosted by the Henry County Democratic Women. It was one of our Sapphire Sundays. And so we actually traveled around to a few churches before the pandemic started, and had individuals from the elections office come out with the machines, and we did full demonstrations. And so Bishop, you were one of the ones who, you were able to go through the entire process where you will, keyed in your information, as Ms. Mildred just stated, cast your vote, and then you tried out the new machine where you process the paper through the scanner. So it's a very simple process. One thing that I want to state in reference to what Ms. Mildred stated, from being a poll manager before, is that you also, outside of your driver's license, any valid state, federal government issue ID, passport you can bring. I had someone show up with their military ID, you can have your tribal photo ID. If you have a gun permit, anything that's issued by the state of Georgia, you can bring that in, because, you know, sometimes people will try you from being a poll manager just to see if you know all of the different types of ID that can be accepted. And so you want to make sure that, you know, if you have one of those, you know, just because you may not necessarily have a driver's license, you still can bring that ID in and vote. So don't let that be the reason that you don't cast your ballot.
And the process, it's a little different, but once you walk through it, and when we had the machine to come out, and anyone who knows me knows I'm going to ask as many questions as I can. I think I was that last person that day who had like 9 questions when they were getting ready to shut down, but walk me through. Everything was fine and everything was good. So please don't let the process keep you from walking through to making your vote. Is early voting and mail-in ballots safe? Y'all talk to us about that. Is early voting and mail-in ballots, is that a safe process for us right now?
So Bishop, before we move on to that, I also want to kind of say, with regards to the question about what do you need, also student ID, a valid student ID from a college or university is also acceptable, because we want to make sure that our young people vote. So, you know, they can take their college ID is accepted. The other thing is that if you voters without ID, they can vote by provisional ballot. But then what they would have to do is within 3 days after voting, they will have to provide a copy of some type of one of those identifications that was listed. They have 3 days to bring that ID back to the Board of Elections office. If, say, for example, you forget your ID, we don't want people, a lot of times, you know, once people go, they won't come back. And so we don't want people not to take the opportunity to vote especially if they stood in line for a long period of time or whatever. If they forget their ID, they can ask for a provisional ballot. They can vote, and then they have 3 days to bring their ID in to make sure that that provisional ballot is counted. And so, you know, we just want, we don't want anyone to have any excuse whatsoever as to not voting in this crucial election.
Yes. Yes.
And Bishop, you know, we're encouraging people to vote early. We've got early voting sites all over the county. Vote early. Don't stand in line on November 3rd. Get out there and vote early. Vote early.
What's the earliest we can start voting?
October 12th is when early, October 12th is when early voting starts, and it goes all the way to October the 30th. But I do want to emphasize and stress that, you know, I know a lot of people are back at work. A lot of people may not be able to take the time off from their job, even though they should be allowed to do that to vote. But we live in a real world. And so we want to encourage people to take advantage of the 2 Saturdays that the polls will be open to vote. And that will be October the 17th and October the 24th. We have 2 Saturdays that are available to vote, as well as a Sunday, October the 25th. So it is no reason in this election that, you know, you have so many different ways you can, if you don't feel comfortable going to the polls, you know, you can request your absentee ballot. If you don't feel comfortable mailing it in, there is a ballot box outside of the Board of Election. Go and drop your ballot in the ballot box. if you can vote early, and there are going to be several voting locations after that first week. It'll be different voting locations that will be open in the different cities that you can go and vote. And then the Saturday voting, the Sunday voting, and then of course election day voting, which is November the 3rd. There is no excuse.
Let me just say this also. The Saturday voting is from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And the Sunday voting on October 25th is from 1 p.m. until 5 p.m. And just like Mrs. Harrell has said, there's just no excuse. Do you know that the state of New York does not even have early voting? So we're fortunate to have early voting in this state.
I'm going to say this, and I'm going to put a challenge out here to everyone who's watching, that for those who are participating in early voting, to please, and this is nothing for fanfare or anything, take a picture of your vote, your early voting. If you're going to do that, post it on Facebook and tag me in it. I want you to tag me in it when you go out there, and I want you to be the change, and then you can hashtag be the change. So that's new. I hope somebody who's on our team is catching that. Want to make sure that we are voting, taking a picture, hashtag be the change. And I'm going to say this about the Sunday that we're voting. I'm going to challenge a lot of my pastor friends to see how can we provide transportation, because it's after service is done, and after services has been held, it starts from 1 to 5. And we're going to work to see if we can get some people to the early voting on the 25th from 1 to 5. So that's a challenge I'm putting out there for individuals. Listen, and the ladies are correct. It has been made available, so there is no excuse. So if you are of age and someone asks you, have you voted? You have no excuse to give them as to why you haven't. Okay. And so in this voting this year, ladies, can one of you talk about, because I know what we have a lot of things that are on these ballots, but share with us some of the things that people are voting for. I know we talked about the chair's position. We talked about the chairperson's position, but there are other things that are going to be on the ballot. So talk to us about what else can we expect to see that we're voting for in this election.
So, Bishop, we have additional candidates or seats that are up for re-election. And so, as you stated, Carlotta Harrell is running for Henry County Commission Chair. We have Reginald Scandrick that is running for sheriff. We have Sabria Hill running for Clerk of Superior Court. We have Kelly Rose running for State Senate District 17. We have Regina Lewis Ward running for State House District 109. We have Ebony Carter running for State House District 110. William Harris running for State House District 130. Sheila Henley running for State House District 73. And Dee Clemens running for re-election for Commissioner for District 2. So, and I said those names because with being the president of the Henry County Democratic Women, those are the candidates that we are supporting. So we want to make sure everyone knows. Now we do have some questions, and Carlotta has done the research on those questions. So I'll let her explain those questions that are on the ballot, because those are going to be a little confusing this year for some. And so she's actually taken the time to do the research and can kind of break it down a little bit more.
Okay, so before you say that, Ms. Harrell, I want to say to everybody who's listening and in on our conversation, you heard the list of people who are running for the different positions in this election. Let me say this to you: do your homework. Go out there and look and find out something about these people, so that as you're voting for them, you know who you're voting for. So do your homework. I can say to you that I do mine, and excuse me, and Miss Harrell, is one of those persons that, as the song says, stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above, from the mountains to the prairies. Y'all know the song, to the oceans white with foam, God bless America. That's a song that somebody in the national office didn't know, but we're not going to talk about that tonight. But just want to make sure I mention tonight, do your homework. All right. Thank you, Ms. Herrera. If you'll just share with us some other things that are going to be on the ballot this year.
Yeah, so there are going to be 3 referendum or 3 amendments that's going to be on the ballot. And so I had got so many phone calls from voters in Henry County as to, you know, what do these referendums mean? And especially a lot from my senior citizens, and you know, they wanted to know how to vote and what did they mean. And so I said, give me a day, let me do some research, and I'm going to call you back. And so that's exactly what I did. I did the research on it. So one of the amendments is the Georgia property tax exemption for certain charities, and that is on the ballot. And so basically what that is that it is asking that certain charities such as like Habitat for Humanity, that does a lot of, you know, they build homes for individuals. So they're asking those particular type charities that do that type of work are asking not to have to pay the property tax on the property. That's money that they can take to put into the house to get the house ready sooner, that they turn over to the individual that they're giving the house to. And so so we're helping individuals that need housing. And so these type of charities are asking for that tax exempt. And so this particular amendment on the ballot, I am supporting and I am voting yes for, because anytime, you know, Habitat for Humanity has done so much for people, not just in Georgia, but worldwide. And so if they can take that money and put it toward the materials that they need to be able to build more houses, then I definitely support that measure. So that's the one amendment. The second amendment, one of the other amendments, is that Georgia allow residents in to seek relief from certain relief from certain laws. So basically what this is that the way that it reads on the ballot, it, you know, pretty much is that it is saying it deals with sovereign immunity. And it is saying that it was actually sponsored by one of our representatives here in Henry County. And it passed unanimously through the House and Senate to go on the ballot as an amendment. And so basically,
Carla, let me simplify that particular amendment.
Okay.
Basically, what it allows citizens to sue government. I'm just going to break it down. It allows citizens to sue the government,
right,
who have historically been immune from
lawsuits, right? Yeah,
so that's basically what it allows citizens to do.
Yeah. And then the other amendment is the Georgia dedicating tax and fee revenue amendment. And so basically what this here does is that it's saying that any tax or fees that are collected, that these taxes and fees cannot be taken and used for anything other than what they have been collected for. So in other words, you can't take these taxes and fees and put them in the general fund to make up your deficit because you want to you need to do some other stuff. In other words, if they were collected for this, this is what you have to use them for.
Mhm.
And so all three of these amendments I am supporting. I am voting yes for all three of these amendments. And so that's pretty much what's going to be on the ballot, other than the candidates that that Ms. Hollis had mentioned earlier, as well as, of course, we're going to have the U.S. Senate candidates that will be on the ballot, as well as the presidential candidates that will be on the ballot.
All right, thank you so much for sharing that with us. And oftentimes we do get to the polls, and the way it's described and the way it's laid out there is a little bit ambiguous. And thank you so much for sharing that with us in terms of what else we can expect to see on the ballot this year. Have two questions that have come in. Yes, ma'am, Ms. Mildred, you want to say something now, or?
I think you're going to get to the voting by mail, because I think there's been a lot of controversy regarding people double voting or voting twice. And we might want to just try to tell the voters how they can do that without any problem.
Then let's talk about that right now.
So basically, if people have changed their minds and decided that they don't want to do an absentee ballot, they can take that ballot, not completed ballot, an uncompleted ballot, into the elections office or into their precinct, polling precinct, and give it to the poll manager with a written authorization to allow them to vote, and saying that, to invalidate or not, they're not going to use the absentee ballot, and they can vote in person.
But they need to bring the absentee ballot with them.
Right,
Okay.
right.
So is it possible for me to have requested an absentee ballot and then go into the poll and vote? Who catches that, or is that something? Because if I get an absentee ballot and I mail it in, can I go to the poll and vote too?
No.
Okay. What prevents me from voting twice?
What prevents you from voting twice is the fact that you mail that absentee. Well, they should catch it. Now, we've got some counties that didn't catch it, and that's where a lot of the controversy has come in.
Mhm.
But it's very rare that it's not caught,
Okay.
that you have actually mail your absentee ballot in, and then you come in and vote in person.
Okay. Let me talk about this, and I did not put this in our framework, but last night we heard that the absentee ballots are going to be counted once the polls close on the 3rd. Is that correct?
Well, now the courts have allowed, or have, and I know the Georgia Secretary of State's office is appealing this decisions by the court to allow us an additional 3 days to receive those ballots and count them. But I don't know what the court decision is at this time.
Okay, so is there a way, is there a cutoff time? So if I mail my vote, if I mail my ballot in, can I mail it on the 2nd as long as it's stamped, it'll be counted, or should I do it before?
It should be counted, but I would advise you to do it before. As I said before, I'm encouraging people to get those ballots, absentee ballots in as soon as possible. My husband and I personally completed ours and got ours in. We took ours to the elections office and put them in the drop box. Then I went into my voter page to find out the status, to make sure that it had been received, processed, and accepted. And you can do that.
Good news.
But I encourage people to get them in as soon as you can. Don't wait. get those absentee ballots in as soon as possible. I know people are going to mail them. You mail them, you've got to put a stamp on them. I personally took mine to the election office and put it in the drop box. And then I went in to make sure that it had been processed and accepted.
So you're saying to us there's a way we can track that process?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And people, I hope you're hearing this, that there's a way you can track this once you take it in. There's a way you can track it. Give us the website where we can track it. You have that, Ms. Mildred?
Yes, my voter page and the Georgia Secretary of State's website.
Okay. That's where we can track it, and that's where we can find out if we're registered. We can find all that information on that page. I do have a question that's come in, two of them. One is, what is it about the voting process that's different that we need to be aware of? I think we may have answered that a little bit, but I want to make sure that if we did not, if you want to say more about that, you can say more about the process that's different that we need to be aware of. Is there more we want to say?
Bishop, one of the things that I want to say is that, of course, the steps of when you go in and, once you do your voting on the screen like you've always done, it will print you out. It will print you out your ballot. You need to make sure that you look over your ballot and everything that you vote, every person that you voted for is on that printed ballot.
But it's on the screen before you print, correct?
Well, it's on the screen before you print, but I'm saying when you can print, once it's printed,
gotcha.
You review your printed ballot to make sure that it's correct.
Gotcha.
If it's not correct before you cast your vote, then, and Mildred, please correct me if I'm wrong, but you change it before you actually cast your vote. I mean, I just want to make sure, because what I was told is that once they scan it in, and it says your vote has been cast, you can't go back and change it. That's, and that's what I want to tell people, is that you're at the screen, you do your voting like you've always done. You will print a paper copy of who you voted for. You make sure that it is correct. If it's not correct, before you actually cast your vote, you need to make whatever changes you need to make before you cast your vote. Once you cast the vote, it cannot be changed. And so I would like to encourage people, don't walk away until you see that it says your vote has been cast. Because if you don't, sometimes they have to, if it doesn't, when they scan it through, if it doesn't go through like it should the first time or whatever, you want to make sure that on that screen, it says your vote has been cast. And so that's the difference in the process from before, of just going in, punch, and then submit your ballot, and boom, you're out of there, click, you give them a card back and you're gone. This one here is actually, I guess, quote, a paper trail. But I would just, encourage people to just make sure, because we've heard stories that, when I touched this on the screen, somebody else's name popped up. And so, we've heard those types of stories from the quote, the tampering that the Russians and all of that are supposed to be doing. And so you just want to make sure that who you vote for is on your ballot before you cast it.
And that's the difference between the old machines and the new machines. And like you said before, with the new machines, that's it. That's a done deal. So make sure you look over carefully, carefully.
Two things. So there are persons available who are at the polls for those who are vision and hearing impaired.
There are, but I would suggest that if a person has someone that can go with them,
Okay.
it is allowed pursuant to the code to bring that person with you.
Okay.
As opposed to having the poll workers to work with you. I would suggest you bring someone with you.
Yeah, in light of the COVID, we want to make sure that that'll be good. A couple more questions. I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry. I just kind of wanted to add to this as well. I know you issued a challenge about everyone going out and voting, but again, having been a poll manager before, I've seen where individuals walk in and they vote at the top of the ticket and cast their ballot and they walk out. And so I would like to add to that challenge that you're making and to ask individuals to cast a complete ballot, meaning you vote for every candidate, every race on that ticket. So to not cast an incomplete ballot is what we're asking. Vote for every race, every race.
So you're saying to us, if we have something empty on the ticket, then it's an incomplete ballot?
I'm saying it's incomplete because it's a race that you didn't vote for. You didn't vote in that particular race. Yes.
Gotcha.
So when I say cast a complete ballot, you're going to go in and you're going to vote for president, vice president, U.S. Senate, or, and that's because, it's highly publicized. It's all on TV, radio, you see it on the internet every day. But you want, just like you said, do your research so you will know which local candidates to vote for. So it's not that you're walking into the polling location or you have your absentee ballot and you don't know who those individuals are. So the thing is to cast a complete ballot. When you have your absentee ballot, you want to make sure that you fill it out properly so that it's not kicked out. So sometimes people put a little check mark or they don't bubble it in all the way. You want to make sure that you complete your absentee ballot correctly so it's not kicked out, and it doesn't have to go for someone to review it for them to try to decide what it is that you were, who you were trying to vote for. You want to make sure that you complete your absentee ballot correctly as well. And those are two things that I wanted to add outside of the reminder that voter registration deadline is Monday, October the 5th. So you got to be in the game in order to play. And if you're not registered to vote, you can't play. You can't play in this game this year. Mm-hmm. So if you want to play in this game in the big league, either you're already registered to vote or you need to get registered to vote. But the cutoff is October the 5th. So you got to be in it for us to win it.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Bishop,
yes,
I'm going to just say this real quick. Thank you so much, Madam Chair Hollis. But when we look for change to be implemented across the board, it starts with a focus on local and community politics. The presidential election is important, but problems and issues concerning most people are resolved at the local level by local officials. And I just tell people when she talks about when you go in to vote, don't just vote for the president and the vice president. Look at that ballot. Look at those referendums. I'm from the legal field, was in the legal field for 45 years. I had to read those referendums twice to understand them. I got to talk to those lawyers that put that language in there because most people don't understand those referendums. Mm-hmm. People got to vote. You got to vote all the way down. You can't just vote for the president and the vice president.
Thank you, ladies. And I want to say from an educated standpoint, when we were taking tests and we moved from checking and circling to the Scantron. Well, I'm dating myself now. But the Scantron would kick it out of the machine that would process it if you didn't do it right. If you bubbled outside the circle, or if you did. All I'm saying is when you get your absentee ballot, that you follow the instructions so that it is clear. Habakkuk said, write the vision, make it plain that they may run who read it, so that they don't have to try to figure out if you want to vote for Biden. They don't have to figure out if you want to vote for Carlotta. They don't have to figure it out because you've made it clear. Then I have to figure out which amendment you want to amend. You want to make it clear, and clarity is key. Two more questions. Number one, it's in reference to stamps. So Ms. Mildred, I think a yes or no to this is sufficient. One person asked, is one stamp good enough? Because they put two on theirs because it said make sure that there's enough postage.
Now, Master General has said that if people don't put postage on it, they're going to deliver it. And we had, with the Henry County Board of Elections, we have budgeted for that. We're going to ask that postage be paid by Henry County if people put those ballots, mail-in ballots, and don't put a stamp on them. I would, you know, to be safe, and I've said this time and time again, you need to try and deliver it, deliver those absentee ballots if you can to the drop box, or put them in the hands of the poll workers. But the Postmaster General said that they will deliver them without a stamp.
Okay, but that doesn't just give me the right to just not put a stamp on it and stick it in the box.
You are correct.
Yeah. Let's just do right, people. Put a stamp on it. Put a stamp on it. Don't just decide what they're gonna pay for it. You know, no. Let's do right. Let's do right. And the last question that I've received, I'm checking all of my areas where I'm receiving questions from. And you all talk to us about how you feel about people shutting down after last night's debate and are choosing not to vote. After last night's debate, people are choosing, God in heaven knows, I don't know why they would do that, but they're choosing to not vote. You guys share your feelings about people shutting down after that debate last night and choosing not to vote.
I'll just try to give a quick response to that. That was the presidential debate. And, you know, the president is supposed to be the individual that represents us as a nation. However, if you choose not to vote for whoever you want to select as the president, I ask you to still vote in the local elections. If you decide not to cast your ballot for president, so be it. But what affects you on a day-to-day basis are your local elected officials. My son asked me, Mom, why are they, you know, making it so that we can go back to school now and we're still in the middle of a pandemic? I said, because the individuals that were elected in office have voted and decided that they want to open school back up. Even though we have the option to, you know, continue with virtual learning, but they're also doing in-person learning as well. But that was a decision that was made by the school board members, and those are elected positions. So again, we have individuals in office that make decisions for us in our daily lives. So if you have decided that you cannot make a choice in the presidential election, is too much for you, I still encourage you and ask you to go out and at least vote for your local candidates. Vote for your sheriff, vote for your chair. You know, people are having, you know, comments and concerns about, you know, issues with police brutality. Well, guess what? Your commissioners are the ones that hire the police chief. It's not the sheriff, it's the commissioners. So you got to know who controls who and what. So the individuals that's voting for, you know, the different rights and down at the dome, those are your senators and your House reps. You got to have the individuals that are there that are going to vote for your best interest, the best interest for the majority of the individuals that are in the community. So we need proper representation. We need proper representation. And in order to do that, you got to get into the game. You got to be registered to vote, and you got to get out and vote. And take somebody with you. Don't vote alone. Mm-hmm. That's my 2 little cents. Thank you.
Thank you so much for adding to that. Yes, ma'am. Anybody else before I want to say a little bit more.
You know, Bishop, I just want to say that it's just important that we vote at the national level, the federal level, and also at the local level. And when we talk about the federal and the national level, we're talking about your Social Security, your Medicare. We're talking about, controversial issues like the appointment of a Supreme Court justice. We're talking about things that are going to impact us. And I know I'm a senior citizen and I don't want my Social Security cut and my Medicare cut. And everybody has a parent or a grandparent that's going to be affected by everything at the national level and the local level. I encourage people to vote all the way down that ballot, starting at the top, going all the way down, because you're going to be affected by it at every level. Every level.
So, of course, I want to chime in on that. This election is too important not to vote. In spite of what happened last night, what did or did not happen last night, at the end of the day, we're still going to have a president that is going to represent us, that's going to represent this country. And so as a voter, you should, everybody that is a registered voter should want to have a say in that process. Now, it's always kind of been a saying, the lesser of the two evils. So, at the end of the day, sometimes you just got to go with what, you have to go with. I mean, we have two choices. And, of those two choices, what do you want? It's kind of like when you go to a restaurant and you got a menu and you're trying to decide what you want on that menu. Okay. And so do you want steak or do you want ground beef? And so at the end of the day, we have to make a decision with the choices that we have before us. And not going is not an option. Now, on the local level, of course, that's where the rubber meets the road. And so you can't pick up the phone and ask the president to come pave your roads. You can't pick up the phone and ask the president about picking up your trash. You can't call the president and ask the president about, why we got traffic on 75 and what you're going to do about it. Okay. So we have a lot of issues on the local level when it comes to being able to bring jobs to Henry County. So where the 70, 80% of the people that live in this county don't have to drive outside of this county to go work somewhere else. We need to create opportunities right here in this county. We need to make sure that we deal with this traffic congestion that we have here. And we got to have people that's going to advocate for the DOT dollars. They're all going up on the north side of Atlanta. We need to bring the DOT dollars here to the south side. And so you've got to have, at the end of the day, leadership matters. And right now, we don't have it. And so, all politics is local. People need to get out and they need to exercise their right to vote. Have your voice heard. Otherwise, don't complain. You want to have parks in your community. You want to have activities in your community. You want to have upscale restaurants in your community. You want to have, just all type of services. You want not, when you call 911, you want the 911 operator to pick up. You want fire trucks to come if you got a fire. You want the police to respond if you have an emergency. So come on, people. Let's not take what happened last night and say, oh, I'm not going to vote. To me, that is petty, because at the end of the day, this is too serious. We have too many issues on the national level, on the state level, and on the local level that are just on the brinks. I have aging parents that depend on Social Security and Medicare. And so right now, with all of the inequalities, all of the racial and social unrest in this country, and then you want to talk about not going to vote. after people, then, pick an issue that's important to you. If student debt is an issue for you, then find out which candidate, which of those candidates is going to support the issues that are important to you. But just please go and vote. And that's all that I'm asking people to do.
And I'm Michael Strickland, and I approve this message. Let me say thank you, ladies. But I want to say this in closing tonight, unless there's something in the conversation you all want to say more about. I was looking at leadership this morning, and John Maxwell says in his 7 principles for handling crisis, he says the place to handle a crisis is not from behind, but in front of people. A leader's visible presence during times of crisis inspires confidence and gives others a sense of security. We need people in this age, at this stage, and in this phase in our nation who can lead us, and we can feel safe and confident in following their lead because they're in front of us leading us. And so tonight, I thank you ladies so much for joining me. The one thing I cannot do is I cannot pay you for your time, but what I can do, if you cash at me, I can send you a dessert card. You can at least get some dessert on me. So if you send me your cash app, I'll make sure you get some dessert money. But for the persons who are watching and those who are connected with us tonight, I think we've answered all of the questions. Thank you so much for logging in. Thank you for asking the questions. And it has been our prayer that the questions that you came with tonight were answered in this conversation. I got one more chat here. Okay. Please make sure that you understand our heartbeat tonight was to inform, empower, encourage, and equip people to have the necessary tools that you need to get out there and be the change that we want to see in our country. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining us. And as we always do, we don't ever want to leave our time tonight. This is straight Bishop here without giving people an opportunity to give their lives to Christ. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to share with you tonight, but I'm straight Bishop here now. So if you want to connect with a Word Teaching Church, Victory Tabernacle is that church that you can connect with tonight. Make a record of it on the screen tonight, or you can inbox us and we'll make certain that we get in touch with you. And also, we thank you so much for supporting us during this time. There are 4 ways you can give. You can text to 404-996-0077, and you can sow. We believe at Victory Tabernacle Church International that every time we sow a seed, we are scheduling a harvest. The second way you can give is you can go to our website, www.igotthevictory.org. Sounds like a good website to me. I got the victory. And we believe that at Victory Tabernacle Church International. The third way you can do that is you can go out there on Easy Time, look for Victory Tabernacle, and you can sow your seed that way. And then the fourth way you can do that is that you can mail it in. Use that stamp to mail it in to 111 Kellytown Road, McDonough, Georgia, 30252. It has been our pleasure to share with you all on tonight. Ladies, we're praying for you. Thank God for you in your service. It's a service as unto God. And the Bible says everything that we do it as unto God. We're praying for you. Thank God for you and all of your wisdom that you've poured into us tonight. October 5th is the deadline to be ready to get into the game. I heard it tonight. You can't play if you're not in the game. Make sure that you go out there and check to be certain that you're in the game. And October the 12th is when early voting begins through the 30th. October the 17th and the 24th are the 2 Saturdays from 9 to 4 that you can vote. Then October the 25th from 1 to 5 is another opportunity for you to vote. Please make sure you get this information. If you have any questions, you can check in with us. Log in or put a comment in the comment box, and we'll make sure we get an answer. God bless you, ladies. Thank you so much. It has been my delight to spend this evening with each of you. God bless you. You all go forth. Make sure you send me your Cash App so I can get you a good dessert for you. Thank you much. Have a good evening. Bye now.